We are sharing one area veteran's story. His act of kindness off the battlefield would be one he would never speak of, and one a young girl would never forget. A special story of heartfelt humility, a chance encounter during one of the darkest periods in history. Mike Thompson reports from our sister station in La Crosse.
89-year-old Harry Henderson of Sparta is a decorated World War II veteran.
Oh, wow.
From a Bronze Star to a Purple Heart to numerous other honors, Harry saw the worst of the worst.
Amazing.
Harry was part of the 101st Airborne Division, 506 Parachute Regiment, landing on the shores of Normandy on D-Day and later taking part in the Battle of the Bulge. But 65 years after the war, it's not an act of bravery or heroism that's being remembered. It's one small gesture of kindness.
I've known Harry since I was, 5, 6 years old. You know, we grew up out in Leon, and his kids and I went to the same school.
This was done in 1945.
When lifelong friend Phil Green volunteered to be Harry's guardian on the Freedom Honor flight to Washington, D.C. back in June, he had no idea the incredible story he was about to help uncover.
While I was up in his room, he's showing me his 506 scrapbook and all of that stuff, and then he hands me this letter, and that letter was in these little plastic page protectors, so I knew it had to be something special.
The letter was written by a Belgian woman named Marie Lipstad Pinnes, a Jew who at just 14 years old had survived 4 years in a Nazi concentration camp.
1945, 27 April 1945, the cannon thundered the whole night through. It was early in the morning that American troops liberated our concentration camp. A little lost, naturally, what to do with this newfound freedom. I walked into Turkenheim looking for some friendly face, somebody friendly, and when a GI, very tall, addressed me sharply, I didn't understand English, so I showed him my forearm, on which he could clearly see my tattoo concentration camp registration number. Then, very simply, without comment, he took my hand and led me into a well-stocked clothes store.
After 4 years stuck in a nightmare, wearing only rags, the GI gave her a brand new dress. And then, just as quickly as he entered her life, he was gone.
I don't remember his face, but in my mind is imprinted the memory of this soldier who gave me back the appearance of a free girl. If he's still alive, and I hope so, I would like him to know that I often think about him, and it would be marvelous if he could recognize himself in this story.
So I'm reading this letter, and being that I know Harry, I'm reading this whole letter thinking he's going to tell me he's that GI.
Sure enough, it was indeed Harry. The letter was published in a Belgium newspaper in 1969, but Harry only learned of it at a war reunion in 1984. And in all that time, he never said anything to anyone.
So I read the letter and I ask him, "Are you the GI?" And he goes, "Yes." I said, "Do you know where she is?" "No." I said, "You want to find her?" "Yeah." So I took the letter, I made some copies of it, I took it home, I showed my wife, and in about 2 minutes she had a picture of Marie.
It turns out Marie had been looking for Harry for more than 4 decades. She would travel around Europe telling her story and speaking of the unknown soldier who gave her so much more than just a new dress.
Oh, it was pretty emotional. I tell you, my wife and I, we'd just sit there and look at each other like, what are we doing? We didn't know.
An unlikely bond born out of a horrific war. And all these years later, one small gesture still not forgotten. And finally, a chance to say thank you.
And joining me now is reporter Mike Thompson from our sister station, WKBT in La Crosse. Mike, thanks for sharing this story with us. It really was a well-done piece, and it turned out to be a very fitting final tribute to Harry as well.
It did, Eric. Just a few days before this story aired, Harry passed away, and his family had asked us to run with the story, not only as a tribute to Harry, but a generation of veterans who have done so much for our country.
And speaking specifically about World War II veterans, they truly are the greatest generation, and such humility when you talk to them, and that certainly was the case with Harry as well.
Oh, absolutely. And all the veterans that you talk to, almost all of them, they don't want to talk about their stories and their experiences in the war a lot of the times, even all of these years later. And that was true with Harry as well. I think a perfect example, and you'll see this in tomorrow night's story, is Harry didn't say anything about his encounter with Marie for all of these years later, until recently when he met Marie for the first time. So I think that's just one example of the humbleness that Harry and all the veterans show.
And this scene of a soldier buying this dress for a concentration camp survivor, it really sounds like something kind of out of a movie. Did he share some more of these details with you about that day?
Well, he did. You know, he didn't want Marie to have just any dress. She tried on a bunch of dresses. One was too long, one was too short, one didn't fit right, and he kept going until he found the one that he thought she looked the best in. So I think that's just kind of an example of Harry and the kind of guy he was.
Reporter Mike Thompson from WKBT, our sister station La Crosse. Mike, we enjoyed the story. Look forward to part 2 tomorrow. Thanks again.
Thanks, Eric.